So I watched that movie, The Bikeriders. Now, I wasn't really too excited about this movie. Let me start off with the positives. I think Tom Hardy's good in this movie. He does have a little bit of accent, not as much as he's been doing lately in other movies. I will say that. Like this to me isn't one of his best performances, but overall I think he's good in this movie. It's just not one of those performances I was like, oh my god, he's like fantastic again. Also, Butler, I think he does a good job in this for what he's giving, and I think overall the rest of the cast do a good job. Like you had Norman Reedus, I think is the name of the actor from Walking Dead, who played Daryl in Walking Dead, and he was also in Blade 2. So you have a great cast here. But I feel like you don't really get to. Well, I'll get into my negatives when it comes to that stuff, but the cast do a good job of what they're giving. I think the plot is fine in this movie. Like, this is a very middle of the road movie, in my opinion, where I feel like this movie had so much more potential. And the actress who plays, I can't remember her name, but she was from Free Guy. She was in that Ridley Scott movie Last Duelist I loved. She's a great actress. She does a good job in this, but she has a really thick asset. And from I know this movie's based on like some real characters. I think it's mostly based on real like bike club. And I understand like she listened to recordings and this is how the person really sounded. But it does get distracting in this movie because she's basically narrating the story and the accent is so thick in this movie. It did take me out of the movie a couple of times. Like she gives a good performance, but the accent is just really stands out in this movie, and not in a good way personally for me. It just feels like the accent is a little too. It's just too much in this movie, where it's like too thick. So that just bothered me personally, and I can see it bothering other people too. It's a very distracting accent. But the negatives with this movie is that I feel like this movie has so much more potential. Like the idea of this guy who starts a bike club just to like get a bunch of people together who don't have anywhere else to go, and it's a bunch of his friends, and then seeing it go bad could have been interesting. Where it heads in the dress and them becoming like a mafia type bike club. But this movie feels to me like a movie where I'm just like, it has moments where I feel like, okay, this is when it's gonna go bad. I was waiting for this movie to get into like high gear where it's like, okay, the plot starts to get really good, like fantastic, and stuff's gonna go bad now, but it never like really gets there, and the plot just kind of stays very in the middle of the road. And Austin Butler and the girl who plays the Austin Butler's character is like girlfriend. I can't remember if the characters get married in the movie, but basically his love interest in the movie. Like I thought they have okay chemistry in this movie, but you don't get enough scenes of them to get it in this movie. All those Austin Butler's character is only shameless in this movie, so I feel like I don't really get to know his character. Like he's good at playing a cool guy in this movie, but I you don't hear him like talk much, so you don't get many scenes between him and his love interest in this movie. That never feels to me like I get mostly invested in those characters as a couple in this movie. Well, really in his character. And Tom Hardy, it feels like when you see him like later on in the movie, he bones down this diner because Austin Butler's character got beat up by two random guys. That whole Swiss of like him, like you start to see him kind of go bad. I feel like it just wasn't owned completely there for me, and it just, like I said, the characters lack depth for me personally. They were pretty paper thin in this movie. Like I never felt like I got to know any of these characters in this biker club. None of them stood out to me. I didn't feel like I really learned anything about them. Like Tom Holly's character, you get like one scene with him and his wife towards the end of the movie. So I never feel like you get into their like lives outside of the bike club. So just the characters to me were paper thin. Like overall, it's like a well shot movie. I think the characters are fine. The story's fine, and the movie ends on kind of a whimper, in my opinion. It ends in like in a way where I'm just like, really, that's it. Like I get it. You see Alton Butler's character at the end where you see like you hear the engine in his head of him. Like maybe he won't completely let go of being a biker riding a bike, but it just ends in kind of where I'm just like, really, that's it. So overall, this is just a very okay middle of the road movie. Like it's a decent watch. I would say check it out. But like the characters don't really stand out. The story doesn't really stand out. It never like feels like it gets into like high gear. Like it feels like it's like there's a moment earlier where Austin Butler is like beating up these two guys, and you're like, okay, now stuff's gonna go bad. It's gonna, but it never really gets there. Like I said, so overall, it's just an okay movie. That's my thoughts on Bike Riders. Until next time, movie fans.